Little Shop of Horrors, 1986. In the original ending of Little Shop of Horrors, Audrey and Seymour do not survive. They do not escape. They do not win. Instead, they are eaten by the monstrous Audrey the Sept, and the plant goes on to take over the world. That was the vision of the stage musical, and it was faithfully filmed for the screen by director Frank Oz. The special effects were elaborate and nightmarish. Audrey II rampaged through cities, tore down bridges, and swallowed the Statue of Liberty in a Godzilla-style finale. It was audacious, satirical, and deeply dark. But when test audiences watched it, they were horrified, not by the ending itself, but by the emotional fallout. They had fallen in love with Audrey and Seymour. Watching them die was too much. The tone felt suddenly cruel. Warner Brothers panicked. They demanded a new ending where the couple survives, escapes, and lives happily ever after in the suburbs. Oz reluctantly agreed, and the plant's global domination was scrapped. The entire original ending was banned from theatrical release and buried for decades. But in 2012, a restored director's cut finally surfaced, revealing the full monstrous vision. The difference between the endings is staggering. One is a cautionary tale about greed and ambition devouring everything. The other is a studio-friendly redemption arc. The banned ending was too sharp, too funny, too terrifying. So they fed it to the shredder and let audiences believe in love instead of apocalypse. The Wild Bunch, 1969. Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch ends in a bloody ballet of bullets, a group of aging outlaws marching into a suicidal standoff against a corrupt general and his army. That ending is now legendary, but not every country allowed it to be seen. In Europe, South America, and Asia, various governments and censors demanded edits or full removal of the finale. Why? Because the violence was not just graphic, it was revolutionary. The scene lasts over 5 minutes with rapid cuts, slow motion, and an unrelenting crescendo of gore. Bodies fly through the air, heads explode, and friends die without glory. It was not heroic, it was horrifying. That final massacre was seen as an indictment of violence itself, a message some regimes and studios feared would unsettle audiences or inspire unrest. In some countries, the film ended abruptly before the shootout. In others, it was trimmed down to mere seconds. Even in the United States, the film faced heat from moral watchdogs and media critics. Yet Peckinpah insisted the ending was the point. Redemption through destruction, brotherhood through blood. In time, the uncut version became canon. But the fact remains, the most honest moment in the film was almost erased, not because it was wrong, but because it dared to show what violence really looks like when the smoke clears and no one walks away. The Devil's Advocate, 1997. The Devil's Advocate ends with Al Pacino delivering a fiery monologue in front of a morphing statue of writhing souls, an image that captures vanity, lust, and damnation in stone. But that statue nearly doomed the film. A sculptor named Frederick Hart sued the studio, claiming the statue was an unauthorized copy of his work Ex Nihilo, which adorned the Washington National Cathedral. The lawsuit forced Warner Brothers to act fast. To avoid an injunction or permanent censorship, they recalled all prints and digitally altered the statue for home video release. In the original theatrical cut, the statue comes alive. Faces twist, bodies emerge, and Satan's power visually explodes. That version was banned from future circulation and replaced with a less dynamic version that dulled the impact. The banned ending was more than visual effects. It was the final punch of the story. It confirmed that Pacino's devil had the world wrapped around his finger through art, seduction, and spectacle. With the lawsuit settled, the studio never reissued the original. It became a lost final image known only to those who saw it on first release. A rare case where censorship came not from government or morality, but from copyright. The ending was not too violent or too sexual, it was too similar, and so it vanished into studio archives, leaving behind a shadow of what could have been, a final image carved in fire and stone. Brazil, 1985. Terry Gilliam's Brazil is a surreal dystopian nightmare that ends not with hope, but with surrender. The original ending follows Sam Lowry as he is captured, tortured, and finally broken by the bureaucratic system he tried to escape. In the final moments, he fantasizes about escaping with the woman he loves, but that freedom is all in his head. The camera pulls back to reveal him lobotomized and humming a sad tune, a haunting commentary on authoritarian control. But Universal Pictures executives were horrified. They considered the film too bleak, too confusing, and commercially suicidal, so they banned the original ending for the United States release and replaced it with what is now called the Love Conquers All cut. In this version, Sam actually escapes. The couple survives. The system is defeated. Gilliam fought back. He took out a full-page ad asking why Universal refused to release his film. Secret screenings of his cut built buzz. Eventually, the controversy forced Universal's hand. They released the original in limited form, but for months the ending they allowed was a lie, a happy ending stitched onto a tragedy. The banned version was not just darker, it was the truth of the story, a warning about illusion obedience and the cost of dreaming in a world built to crush you. Blade Runner, 1982. The ending of Ridley Scott's Blade Runner has been debated for decades. In the theatrical release, Deckard escapes with Rachel as soft music plays, and voiceover narration explains that everything will be fine. It is a hopeful ending that clashes with the noir tone of the film, but that was not Scott's choice. The original ending was wordless, ambiguous, and unsettling. Deckard picks up the origami unicorn left behind by Gaff. He looks at Rachel. The elevator doors close. Cut to black. No explanations, no safety net. The implication was that Deckard might be a replicant, that their future is uncertain and likely short-lived. But studio executives panicked. Test audiences found the film too dark. So the ending was banned and a new one was stitched together using leftover footage from The Shining. The result was a strangely cheerful drive into the countryside, with narration reassuring us that Rachel does not have a termination date. Years later, Scott released the director's cut and then the final cut, restoring his original vision. The banned ending made Blade Runner the philosophical mystery it was meant to be. The studio's version wrapped it in a bow. But the truth of the film is not comforting. It is existential, and that scared them enough to bury it. Dr. Strangelove, 1964. Stanley Kubrick originally ended Dr. Strangelove with a full-blown custard pie fight in the war room. Yes, after all the nuclear dread and Cold War satire, the film was meant to end with political leaders hurling pies at each other in slapstick chaos. The entire sequence was filmed. Characters slipped, fell, and smeared each other in cream while generals and diplomats cackled. It was absurd. It was bold. But Kubrick cut it at the last minute. Some say it clashed tonally with the apocalyptic message. Others claim the assassination of President Kennedy shortly before release made such satire unpalatable. One insider claimed that when a character shouted, "Our beloved president has been struck down," during the food fight, it hit too close to real tragedy. Whatever the reason, the pie fight was banned from the final cut and replaced with the now famous montage of nuclear detonations scored to "We'll Meet Again." That image became iconic. But the missing ending reveals another layer to Kubrick's vision, that underneath political horror lies total absurdity. A food fight in the halls of power, a farce at the edge of extinction. The scene was not just cut, it was smothered, because even for Kubrick, sometimes the joke hit too hard. The Magnificent Ambersons, 1942. Orson Welles' follow-up to Citizen Kane was set to be a devastating masterpiece about wealth decay and the collapse of American aristocracy. The Magnificent Ambersons was meant to end with loss, regret, and a lingering emptiness as Eugene walks away from a dying Isabel, and the Ambersons fade into obscurity. Welles shot it all. Then he left for South America on a wartime documentary assignment. In his absence, the studio panicked. They previewed the film to confused audiences and decided the ending was too bleak. Without Welles's consent, they banned the original ending, cut over 40 minutes of footage, and filmed a new happy conclusion where reconciliation and redemption replace ruin. The original negative was destroyed. The footage lost forever. Welles was devastated. He called it the greatest tragedy of his career. What remains today is a fractured version, brilliant but incomplete. The ending we have was manufactured to please wartime audiences, not to preserve artistic truth. The real ending showed a dying world collapsing under the weight of progress and pride. But RKO believed that was too much, so they erased it, and America lost a masterpiece in the name of cheer. Casablanca, 1942. Casablanca is one of the most beloved films in cinematic history. Its final scene, Rick letting Ilsa leave with Victor while sacrificing his own happiness, has become legendary. But not every country agreed with its message. During World War II, several regimes banned the final scene entirely. Pro-Axis governments saw it as Allied propaganda glorifying sacrifice and resistance. The ending was also censored in neutral countries that feared backlash or were under pressure not to offend German audiences. In some prints, the final airport scene was shortened, altered, or substituted altogether. That final act of selflessness was considered politically dangerous. It might inspire defiance. It might plant ideas. Even years later, during Cold War broadcasts, the film's ending was trimmed in Eastern Bloc regions. The core idea that personal love must sometimes yield to greater causes was too potent, too Western, too defiant. Today, it is hard to imagine Casablanca without that ending. But for millions of viewers across decades, it was banned, hidden, or reshaped. That foggy goodbye between Rick and Ilsa was not just cinematic poetry. It was a call to arms disguised as heartbreak, and that made it powerful enough to fear. These endings were never supposed to survive. They were buried, banned, or reimagined to fit safer narratives. But in uncovering them, we rediscover the fearless visions behind the films. Now that you know what they tried to erase, tell us, which banned ending shocked you most? Like, share, and subscribe for more.